get you the very latest from the country that is troubled by the flawed zero COVID policy. China COVID mayhem is escalating by the day as citizens protest against the stringent COVID norms imposed by the government. The wave of civil disobedience is unprecedented in mainland China. Since Xi Jinping assumed power a decade ago, frustration is mounting over his signature policy. In Shanghai, hundreds of demonstrators and police clashed on Sunday night as protesters were up in arms against the government over the stringent restrictions. And this has been flaring up for a third day now. It spread like wildfire across several cities in the central city of Wuhan, where the pandemic actually began 3 years ago. Videos on social media showed hundreds of residents take to streets, smashing through metal barricades, overturning COVID testing tents and demanding an end to lockdowns. It is a country that had boasted of bringing the COVID situation under control, readying gigantic state-of-the-art hospitals in a matter of days when the pandemic first broke out 3 years ago, of rolling out vaccines. But it also is a country that lied through its teeth about the worsening COVID crisis, fudged numbers about deaths, and worse, misled the world about the origins of the novel coronavirus in its own backyard. We're talking about China. Our special broadcast focuses on the mess that China has found itself in. Our first report is about China reporting the first death in Beijing due to COVID-19 in 6 months. This happened last week. Mayhem has been unleashed by the Chinese government on its own people. The country has the world's strictest COVID policy, a flawed zero COVID policy, and continues to struggle even after 3 years after the first cases of the infection first surfaced right in Wuhan, where massive protests have broken out. Take a look. A QR code to use public facilities, go to office, school, eat in a public place, work as a construction worker, a QR code to breathe. This is how strict things are in China. Panic if a person's QR code next to you is red. Lockdown's a way of life. Even 3 years after the outbreak, as Beijing reported its first death due to COVID in 6 months, sending the country into a tizzy once again. China's prolonged zero COVID policy, scientifically flawed and inhuman, has led to widespread anger. A journalist from Straits Times explained in a tweet how tough things were vis-a-vis quarantine. These pictures speak volumes of how difficult life is for people living in China right now. It is indicative of the fact that the government is hell-bent on implementing an impractical zero COVID policy which has a negative fallout on the economy of China, as is evident. China is reporting about 35,000 new cases on an average, and this is not an underestimate given the brutality with which testing is done. Beijing has shut parks and museums, also schools. China has the world's strictest lockdowns and the country continues to be in doldrums. Rising unemployment, an economy on a downward spiral, and a disgruntled population. President Xi Jinping has been chosen again as the leader of his people, but it is the people who are at the receiving end of the government's policy of optimizing their COVID response. Clearly, there is no respite in sight. In New Delhi, Sneha Murdani for India Today.